Do you actually save money when you switch to cooking with lower energy usage appliances? The answer is yes, and we're going to show you why. Hi, I'm Hope from Under the Median, where every week on this channel we talk about practical frugality. We've talked before on this channel about the importance of changing the way that you are cooking your food every week. Because when you switch to using lower energy appliances, you actually can save money. But we wanted to show you definitively, as well as we could, exactly how you know that you're saving money. So we came up with an experiment, and we're going to see how this works out. Now, before we get started on the experiment, or the contest, if you will, the race to determine which kitchen appliance actually uses the least energy, let me remind you once again who the four contenders are. Behind us, we have my 220 volt electric wall oven. Then we have the toaster oven, the Instant Pot, and finally, the Crock pot. Tell us in the comments section, which appliance do you think will win the race? Now, make sure you stay with me till the end of the video, because that's when we'll tabulate all the results and I'll tell you who won. In order to show you exactly what I mean, we're going to cook 4 squash. Each of these squash is about the same size, about the same shape, and about the same weight. We'll cook the squash one at a time, and each of the squash will be cooked using a different method. So let's get started. We're going to cut the squash up into equal portions. I'm cutting each of the squash into 4 equal portions, making sure that I scoop out these seeds and put them in a bowl to save them for later. Now, if you've never roasted squash before and you feel like you need a little bit of a tutorial, I actually did a post on the website and gave you step-by-step instructions on how to roast a winter squash. And on there, I also put instructions for roasting the seeds that are inside the squash. So make sure, if you want to have roasted squash seeds, which actually are a really great treat, that you save the seeds as you are processing the squash. Grab a spoon and just firmly scrape against the side of the squash to get all of those seeds out. There's kind of like some webby mesh that holds it together. Just go ahead and scrape that into your bowl too. After you soak these in water for just a couple of hours, it makes it much easier to get that mesh off before you roast the seeds. The first of our 4 squash is prepped and ready to go. In this case, it's going to go directly into our preheated 220 volt electric wall oven. Now, this oven does use a lot of energy, but unfortunately, because it's 220 volt, we have no way of measuring the exact amount of energy that it is using. But for each of the 4 methods of cooking that I'll use for these squash, we're going to make a notation of exactly what time of day we started using that electric appliance. We're going to use only 1 electric appliance at a time. What that should allow us to do is within 48 hours, our utility company is going to give us all of the raw data in our account that will show exactly how much energy we used, and we can monitor that electric usage down to 15-minute increments. So Larry is going to have a piece of paper, and he is going to mark on that piece of paper the exact time that we put these squash into the electric oven. We should be able to look at that chart on the utility company website and see that spike of energy usage when we are running the electric oven. What are we doing to try to make sure that we're realistically measuring the amount of energy that each of the appliances are using? Now, we mentioned we are using a kilowatt meter, but there's something else we're also doing to help us sort of eliminate some underlying factors that may inadvertently be raising the energy usage during the time that we are doing the experiment. And that is, we are running all of our kitchen appliances using our Opus portable power station. Opus is the sponsor of this video. This is the 1800 watt Opus, and it sits here most of the time. We use this all the time to power a lot of the appliances that we generally use in our kitchen. Opus is a great manufacturer which offers reliable portable power. Now, portable power is super important no matter if you're indoors, if you're outdoors and you're going someplace where there is no power source. Just grab your Opus and take it with you. The 1800 watt unit is actually pretty portable. It's about 38 pounds. I can lift it and take it from point A to point B without feeling like it's really, really too heavy for me to be able to lift. Now, this does come with some optional solar panels, which allows you to charge it using just the sun, which is absolutely free. It will cost you $0 to charge it if you charge it using the optional solar panels. You're ready to take a look at the Opus portable power station products? Then we're going to make sure that there's a link. It's our affiliate link, guys, and it's in the description of the video. Thanks, Opus, for sponsoring the video.
So it's about 5 till 4 when we're putting the squash in the oven. When did you turn the oven on?
The oven has been preheating for 5 or 10 minutes. Now, normally I would never put one tray of anything into the oven. If you want to save on energy costs and the only thing you have available to use is an electric oven, make sure that that oven is full every time you turn it on. Now, here's another tip for you. You can also turn that oven off for the last 5 to 10 minutes at least of the cooking time, and the residual heat will finish cooking whatever you have in there. All right, let's put this squash in the oven. We're going to set the timer. It's going to be in there 45 minutes, and it's at 375 degrees. While that squash is in the oven, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to prep these other 3 squash to get them ready to cook. Now, as I am prepping the squash, I'm saving these little end pieces of the squash. This is all organic squash. So it's been washed really well. It's been dried off. I am not going to peel this squash before it actually is roasted or cooked, but save these and put them in a bag in your freezer labeled vegetable scraps. Then when you have a full 1 gallon freezer bag, you can actually put it in your Instant Pot, cover it with water, all of those vegetable scraps, and then let it cook for 17 minutes and naturally release the steam, and you're going to be able to create amazing vegetable broth for absolutely free to use in your cooking. All right, 45 minutes later, we're going to grab a fork, we're going to stick it in the squash and see if it is cooked. I can manage this fork with these big gloves on. All right. And I poked it earlier. It is perfectly done. 45 minutes in the oven at 375. There's the final time. We will make a note of the time, and then we're going to be able to check the actual reading on our account at the utility company website. We're going to be able to see how the energy use spiked while we were using the electric oven. Let's look at cooking method number 2. Cooking method number 2 is going to be the toaster oven. This is all prepped and ready to go. I prepped all the squashes while the first squash was in the oven. Here's the advantage of roasting in the oven or the toaster oven, the fact that you get that really nice caramelization. In the last 2 methods of cooking, we're not going to get that caramelization, but it is going to cost us less in energy in order to cook it that way. The toaster oven is downstairs in our second kitchen. I'm going to put these into the toaster oven, and Larry is going to check the energy usage on the kilowatt meter. Now, I'm going to set this up so that it will bake, and we're going to set the temperature. Has to go in increments of 10, so we're going to set it at 380, and we're going to set this for an hour because I find it takes a little bit longer in the toaster oven. So 380, 1 hour, start, and we're off and running. And let's just take a look at the kilowatt meter and see what it's telling us.
Well, we're looking at about 7, whoa,
Heat element came on there.
Yeah, now we're looking at 1,532 watts, 45. It's still going up. It's fluctuating. What we're going to do is run a kilowatt hour test on the toaster oven. So I've got the kilowatt meter hooked up, and I have it set to the kilowatt hour setting. So this will tell me exactly how much electricity the toaster oven is going to use over a 1 hour time period, and thus we can calculate the cost.
All right, it's been almost exactly an hour. We'll open it. I already tested the squash. It is done. We'll pull this out.
Oh, it's good.
And you can see that nice browning on there. If we would turn it over, you'd see there's some caramelization.
Is that pretty hot?
On the bottom. So far, the results are very interesting. Don't forget to vote in the comment section. Which kitchen appliance do you think will win the race for who uses the least energy in the kitchen? All right, we're going to move on to cooking method number 3. Cooking method number 3 is the Instant Pot. Now, just to remind you where we're at in this whole race to save energy cooking in the kitchen, we think that our 220 volt electric wall oven is definitely going to lead the pack when it comes to using the most energy. Then we use method number 2, which was cooking in the toaster oven. Now we're moving to method number 3, which is cooking it in the Instant Pot. Instant Pot cooking, super easy. You'll take your trivet, which should have come with your Instant Pot. Has these little feet. All it does is elevate something just a little bit off the bottom so it doesn't overcook or burn. Add 1 cup of water, and then just arrange your squash in here so that hopefully it will all fit. Okay, it's all down in there nicely. We're going to put it in the Instant Pot, and we're going to set it to pressure cook for 10 minutes, natural release. Okay, just a reminder for the appliances that we can check with the kilowatt meter, we are checking them. We're going to look right over here, and it looks like 916 watts is what the Instant Pot is using, which is about 500 or 600 watts less than the toaster oven was using when it was using that heating element. So this will be interesting. Remember, 10 minutes, but that includes the time that this Instant Pot needs to come up to pressure. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll let you know how much energy we use. Appliance number 3 in the race to see who uses the least energy has just finished. Right there, it's at 0. Now here's what I point out to you. We started this at 12:05. It's 12:25, so that means it only took 20 minutes to cook that squash, and it will be perfectly cooked inside of there. This function, keep warm, is on. We're going to allow this to naturally release the pressure. You want to go ahead and either turn that keep warm button off, or you want to go ahead and unplug the unit. Either way, it will naturally release the pressure. Now, the reason why we want to do that is because right now this food is really super hot. It's up to temperature. But as that food cools, then this would kick on and use some energy in order to keep that food heated to 150 degrees. We don't need the food to be hot. So to avoid that, we're just going to turn off this keep warm function or unplug it from the wall. But don't go away, because we have one more appliance we're going to check and see how much overall energy it uses to cook the exact same type and size of squash. It's time for our final candidate to determine which appliance will use the least energy when cooking food. All I did was I cut up the squash, I put it into the crock pot. You don't even have to add any water. It's going to cook at a low enough temperature that it's just going to pull some of those natural juices out. They'll be in the bottom of the crock pot. You won't have to add any water at all. I'm going to put the crock pot on high. We'll look over here and see how much energy it is using. It is using about 219 watts. We're going to keep that on high for 4 hours. We'll track the total amount of energy which is used, and then we'll let you know at the end of the cooking time how much energy it used in order to cook the squash. All right, it's 4 hours later, and the squash in the crock pot is done. It's a few days later and the results are in. We were able to get into our personal account with our energy company and be able to see the exact chart in 15-minute increments of how much energy we used. And we're able to make some comparisons across the board as to how much energy was actually used by each of the 4 appliances. We'll show you that as we go through this last part of the video, and I actually made some charts for you so you'll be able to see exactly what I am seeing. The wall oven was a little bit difficult to figure out how much energy that it used. So what I did was I pulled up about an hour and a half of the energy usage to show the usage right before I turned the wall oven on and inclusive of what happened after I turned the wall oven off. You're going to be able to look at this chart. Now the lighter colored part at the bottom is our average usage. We use about 0.10 kilowatts per hour of energy in our home. This particular time period that we did the experiment, it was about 0.11 kilowatts per hour. So that's what's represented there on that shaded part on the bottom, that lighter part, and then the red line that goes across the middle, that is the average energy usage that we normally use. What I did was I took into account all of the energy spike above that line, and that was what I accounted for using the wall oven. Look at what happens when I turn that oven on to preheat. Holy cow, it absolutely tripled our energy usage immediately. And you'll see that as the oven came up to temperature, it did moderate a little bit, so it wasn't using quite as much energy. And then when we turned it off, the energy use once again went back down. But what sort of comparisons can we make using the information from this chart? When I looked at the total energy usage for an hour and 15 minutes, remember our energy usage is measured in 15-minute increments, and we sort of started like cooking the squash at about 4 minutes after the hour and got done right at 5 o'clock. So I had to count the preheating as part of the energy usage of the wall oven. When I configured everything, added the total usage, and subtracted everything below that red line, which indicated our general usage that we use all the time, I subtracted those numbers and I came up with 1.22 kilowatts of energy, which was used to cook those squash in the oven in a little under 1 hour. We'll move along to the other 3 appliances that were in the contest. Now, this was much easier to do because we had the kilowatt meter available to actually hook up to the appliance as we were using it. So the kilowatt meter pretty much told us exactly how much energy was used in the cooking time. Now, one of the things that was interesting to us with the toaster oven was when the toaster oven was not heating, when the heating element wasn't on, it was significantly lower energy usage. So the toaster oven actually came out a little bit lower than we thought it would. Let's take a look. What you have to remember is that we documented it when the heat element came on, it was about 1500 watts, but the heating element doesn't stay on all the time. It's regulated. So once it comes up to the correct temperature, then that will shut off. The heat shuts off until it drops to a certain temperature, and then it will come back on in order to bring it back up to temperature. So you don't have a straight 1 hour on for 1500 watts. What you wind up with is an on-off pattern, which means that according to the kilowatt meter, we use a little less than 1 kilowatt of energy to cook in the toaster oven for 1 hour. The Instant Pot for me was kind of the dark horse in this whole contest because I honestly have an Instant Pot, but I don't use it as much maybe as I should be using the Instant Pot. Once again, the kilowatt meter came through and told us exactly how much energy was used in order to cook that squash. And remember, the total cooking time, 20 minutes. Here's the next thing I want to point out. Look at how much energy this used over the course of 20 minutes, just 0.18 kilowatts. Now compare that to what the toaster oven used over the course of an hour, which was about 0.82 kilowatts. So right now it would appear that the Instant Pot is definitely in the lead. And the final contestant in the race was the Crock Pot. Now make sure you stick with me because I actually created a chart with all of the different appliances side by side, and I show you a chart that kind of allows you to compare right across the board and see visually how much energy each of them actually used. The crock pot surprised me. It was on for 4 hours, a little bit over 200 watts being used to run the crock pot. Here's the crock pot results. And the squash used 0.87 kilowatts of energy over 4 hours. Let's take a look at the final energy charts. You'll see the chart that I made that's completely filled out that shows which appliance actually won. Tell me in the comment section, were you surprised that it was the Instant Pot? Larry and I have to be honest, we put our money on the wrong horse. We voted securely, both of us, thinking that it would be our crock pot, and it was not. I promised you a chart that showed you exactly how much energy was used with each appliance. They're all side by side so you can see visually what that sort of trend looks like when you have each of the appliances on and they are in use. This has been so much fun to be able to show you how to lower the amount of money that you are using on cooking by deliberately choosing to use lower energy appliances. If you'd like to know more ways that you can save money in the kitchen and save on electricity specifically, we did a video on it. It's right over there. Go take a look.